Rodafleming in the Philippines here. We're talking about sex again. Gosh, we seem to do a lot of that. So, this video is really in response to a challenge I had, more than just a question, which suggested that the relationship between a straight man and a homosexual, transsexual, trans woman can't be straight. Right, well, actually it can. Now, to get round that, wanted to explain that, let's first look at the science. A few years ago, and I'll put the links on my site, rodafleming.com/links, and then just navigate to, there's two pictures, navigate to where it says read more on transgender and transsexual links. And you find links to this paper carried out by Kevin Sue and some colleagues at Northwestern University in Chicago, and they basically recruited groups of men. They showed them pictures of pre-operative trans women, what are called she-males. This is porn. She-males, ladyboys, travesti in South America. They use a thing which measures the engorgement of a man's penis, and they showed them these pictures, and they measured the responses. And this is a very reliable way of measuring male response, because men are extremely turned on by porn. So if they get excited by an image, it shows instantly. It's able to measure really, really small amounts of blood entering the penis. So they assessed before they started what the orientation, sexuality of the men were, and they found that none, not one, of the homosexual cohort were attracted or aroused by the images of trans women. Not one. Interestingly, they found that amongst the rest, about half were autogynephilic. That is, remember, people who have a condition which can be described as a man's propensity to be sexually aroused at the thought or image of himself as a woman. Right? So don't forget that, we'll come back to it. But essentially that means that from the scientific point of view, no, homosexual men do not find themselves attracted to trans women. So why on earth any homosexual man would be in a relationship with a trans woman, it's beyond logic, doesn't work. But let's look at it in a more real world sense. What about if you were in a bar one night and you met a gorgeous woman? Excuse me, that's my dog. You met a gorgeous woman, you really liked her, you had a couple of dates with her, you got into bed, she got a vagina, you have sex, everything's normal. Suppose that was a person who had had genital reconstruction surgery, which basically inverts the penis in male to feminine and makes it into a very convincing facsimile of a vagina. Right, so what you've done is you've now had sex with a person who used to have a penis. Is that gay? How could that be gay? As far as you were concerned, you were just having sex with a woman that you liked. Let's suppose that you're a little bit sexually adventurous, and after a couple of dates you said, could we try some backdoor action? Maybe you like anal sex. Maybe you thought you'd try that. And what if she said yes? Well, the fact is a lot of women these days are quite open to anal sex. Particularly in the West, by the way, not so much in Asia. It's not nearly so popular here. So you try that. It's nice, you enjoy it. So you've now had anal sex with a person who used to have a penis and you didn't know about it. Is that gay? Well, no, it can't be gay. So this person, I'm not going to get involved in the moralities of whether post-operative transsexuals should tell men that they were post-operative or not. As far as I'm concerned, that's their business. I don't find any persuasive moral case to suggest that they should be obliged to tell men that they used to have penises when they now have vaginas. I'm sorry, I just don't. So let's suppose now that you'd met this girl a week before she had her surgeries. Remember, this is a girl you're quite happy to have vaginal sex with, anal sex with, just everything. And, you met her and she says, well, she might conceal it. She might have concealed that this happens, Or she might say, I got to use the backside because, I'm on the blot, I'm having my menstruation. And you go, yeah, that's fine, because you like anal sex anyway. So you go, right, let's do it. Well, is that a homosexual act? Well, of course not. You think she's a girl. She's a girl. She acts like a girl. She looks like a girl. She's a girl. So it's a straight sex act. You're just going to screw a girl. You're just going to screw her in a different place from the usual one. So what? It's very nice round the back there if it's nice and clean. So with these out of the way, it's very hard to see how this could be possibly gay, but it also shows you that it's all about behaviour. It's about your behaviours. You penetrated her. You did exactly as you would with any other woman. So how is it not straight? Of course it's straight. She looks like a girl, she acts like a girl, she talks like a girl, and she has sex like a girl. You know? I mean, what more do you want? Let's consider for a moment that you were one of that cohort that we mentioned earlier who were autogynephilic, however. Now, autogynephilic men are heterosexual. That's the first thing to know about them. They're not homosexual. If they transition, they may become pseudo-bisexual, but that's a completely different phenomenon. If they're non-trans, that is, they still look like guys, they dress like men, they're absolutely not homosexual. In fact, they tend to be very homophobic. One of the forms that autogynephilia can come in, and remember, autogynephilia is a man's propensity to be sexually aroused at the thought or image of himself as a woman. Now, one of the forms that it can come in is called behavioural autogynephilia, and I've done videos on this. And one of the ways that can be made to work, I mean, things like knitting, yeah, fine, but one of the main ways it is acted upon is sex. Having sex as a woman, or rather as what they think it would be like for a woman to have sex, and that means being penetrated, right? So these men want to be penetrated, right? But they tend to be homophobic. What does that mean? It means they can't have a man doing it. So what they typically do is they ask their wives, if they're married, to peg them with a toy, you know, a strap-on dildo. And by the way, girls, if you've got a husband who's doing this, think about divorce quickly. He might well be autogynephilic. The other thing he might well do is try and persuade a trans woman to penetrate him, because he can't stand the thought of being penetrated by a man, but he wants to feel it. He wants the sensation of being penetrated so that he can know what, well, the equivalent of what he thinks is having sex as a woman, right? Do you understand that? So he's going to act out this fantasy in his head, and rather than just keep his eyes tight shut, he's going to get a pretty girl to do it, because that gets his heterosexual attraction to femininity triggered, so he's getting that hotness, and he's also getting screwed in the ass, which is what he wants, because that's his big kick, that's his paraphilia, is to feel what it would be like to be a real woman, right? So there you go, that's why they do it. And that is unfortunately where your pegging husband is likely to end up, by the way, transitioned. So this isn't really gay. This is autogynephilic. It's not the same. Homosexuality is, in the broadest sense, attraction to masculinity for men. It's the inverse for females. And the fact is that men who are attracted to trans women are attracted to their femininity. They're not attracted to masculinity. So the attraction is completely straight. Now, I will fully accept, you know, that I really like trans women. The ladyboys, yeah, they're hot. And in a group of women, and this is very common here, you'll see maybe 2 or 3 ladyboys, and you'll go, wow, you know, and then Sam will elbow me in the ribs and say, stop doing that, you know. And it's fair enough, because she's hotter than any of them. But it's that trigger, you know, and it's not that they're masculine, because they absolutely are not masculine. I mean, nobody could possibly suggest these people are masculine. These are homosexual transsexuals, you know, Asian homosexual transsexuals. I mean, boy, do they look girly. It's just that the feminine attractors that they display are stronger than the ones that the girls around them are displaying. You know, they'll have things. You know, they'll often be a little bit, not so much tall, but they'll have incredible slender legs that you just can't stop looking at. And their bodies, they'll move in a certain way that you're just like, wow. You know, it immediately catches your eye. You know, I'm a professional photographer. I'd be published all over the world. You know, and you learn very quickly that some people are natural stars. You know, as soon as they walk into a room, everybody looks at them. And that's often the case obviously with actors and actresses, but also politicians, that sort of people. It's absolutely a ladyboy thing. It's absolutely a ladyboy thing. They walk into a room and every head turns. It's just like, you know, they can't stop it. All the guys just can't stop it. They can't help themselves. And it's because they play that feminine game actually better than the girls do. They just are really good at it. And some of it is the physical side of it. Some of it is the way they carry themselves, the way they walk. You know, they tend to be very not studied, but careful, elegant in the way they move, you know, and that sort of thing. And it really attracts, but it's feminine. It's the femininity that gets you. It's like, yeah, look at her, she's just gorgeous. And then you go, wait a minute, she's a ladyboy. And smile to yourself. And that's, by the way, it's absolutely hilarious if you're with someone a guy who doesn't know the difference. And there'll be all these ladyboys walking past and he's going, wow, look at her. And you just sit there and go, chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. That's another story altogether for another time. Anyway, no, sex, men having sex with ladyboys, no, it's not gay. There's nothing homosexual about it. I know that the gay lobby has been trying to promote this nonsense for many, many years, but just because some Americans thought of something in 1960 doesn't mean it's a smart idea, doesn't mean the rest of us have to go along with it. They're only 4% of the world population. For the rest of the planet, throughout history, nobody thought that a man who had sex, who penetrated a feminine homosexual male, was himself homosexual. Nobody ever thought that. The Romans didn't think that, the Greeks didn't think that, the Sumerians didn't think that, the Egyptians, nobody, just nobody. This is a completely new idea from the fun factory of bad ideas, the United States. So I think we can disregard it. So sorry about that, it ain't gay. Take it, bye.